Hi, everyone. Welcome to Konveyor Meetup. Today we have Miguel Colino and Jonathan Vila Lopez, who are going to be presenting on migrating to Quarkus. Before I hand it over to them, just want to go over two announcements. So the first announcement is somebody got the link to the presenters link. So, and I adjusted the calendar invite with the actual attendee link now, and I also put it in the chat. So you can switch over to that view. It doesn't really, you can stay on the presenter view, but just don't mess around with the presenters' actual screens. And then the second announcement is if you're not on the Google group already, go ahead and just join by going konveyor.io, click on forum, and then join the group. We will stop sending out these invites to the Red Hat internal email list, probably beginning in March. So if you want to stay updated, just join through that Google group. I'll put the link to that. So with that said, I'll hand it over to Miguel and Jonathan.
Hi, and thank you very much for inviting us. Buenas tardes, good afternoon, or good day part, wherever you are. I'm going to share my slides. 1 second, please. I think you should see now the screen. Is that okay? I think it's okay because I don't hear.
Yes, it is.
Yes, it works.
Okay, perfect. Okay, well, it is me and Miguel who is going to host this talk, and we are going to talk about migrating an application from SpringBoot to Quarkus. And well, we accepted the challenge, and we did a migration, a real migration. So we are going to talk about the real steps that we did. A bit of the agenda that we are going to follow during this event. So first, we are the two people that are hosting this event. What can you expect of this presentation? And well, also a bit of introduction of what it is Quarkus and why we decided to migrate this application. So which are the key things that we had in mind. Obviously, the migration steps. So in order to do the migration, so which are the things in your code that you need to change. And I will show a shallow comparative between the three approaches. So it's only a matter of showing memory and CPU, startup time, but well, you need to take it as it is. There's a shallow comparative, not going very deep into. Then a list of references with links, tutorials, and tools. More important thing, tools. So, well, first of all, who is the one that is talking to you? Well, I'm Jonathan, recently nominated a Java champion, also JAX co-leader at the Barcelona Java user group, Barcelona, Spain. Also co-founder of the JDBC and Com, the Java conference in Spain that we hosted the 5th edition on 2019. And I'm also working as software engineer at Red Hat. Well, you can have here the ways to contact me. So my Twitter handle, my email at Red Hat, my blog post where you can find also an article about this migration, and my repositories about in GitHub about my personal projects or my professional ones. Miguel, it's your turn to present yourself.
Hey, thanks. This is Miguel Pérez Colino. I'm the product manager for the Migration Toolkit for Applications. I've been quite a while in Red Hat. I've been technical project leader. I've been a sysadmin. As you know, sysadmins are always sysadmins deep in the hats. But now I'm working with application with this team, and I'm taking care of the team and of the tool, so we can improve it and make it work the best possible for all of you out there. And I also encourage you to help us improve the tool so it works better for you and for everyone else. So all yours, Jonathan.
Thank you. So let's continue with the presentation. So what can you expect of this presentation? Well, it's only an opinion, so it's totally opinionated. We used an approach to do the migration, but you can find others. And you cannot find here a magistral lecture, so we are not going to teach you anything, just simply show the experience and show the results. Also, it's something that works, so you can run it and it works. So the intention of the migration was not to do like the perfect migration, considering optimal steps. No, it's just doing something easy that can be adopted in order to migrate the application. And it's not the way. So this is the contrary of the famous sentence from Mando. This is not the way. So we expect you to find yours, and probably you can use different extensions, different approaches in order to move from Spring Boot to Quarkus. The versions of, well, the tools used are 2.5 for Spring Boot and 1.7 for Quarkus. They are already in 1.11, but well, the migration was done months ago, so it was using the version that it was over there. Okay, so let's continue with a brief description of what it is Quarkus. In this presentation, you are going to find some screenshots of retro games in order to get your attention. So just fly to your past, if you will, with these games. So let's start with the description of Quarkus. So Quarkus is something that I like to think of something that works on build time. So obviously it's Kubernetes native. So I mean, it is well connected to Kubernetes, deploying, building, well, very easy to connect to Kubernetes. Also, it's always has this thought in mind. So being compatible with GraalVM into a native artifact, but also being runnable on the OpenJDK JVM. So you can choose your flavor. And a nice thing that I love from this approach is that you don't need to learn new tricks. So Quarkus will use those standard libraries that you have been using over the past with several things. So from Kafka, Hibernate, Vertex, REST, and I will show you the number of extensions currently in Quarkus. So you can stick with your standard libraries, so you don't need to move to learn new ways of doing things. Also, like summarizing the facts about Quarkus, well, it's about speed, way faster than the usual traditional stack that we are using. It also consumes way less memory. And these two things can make you think about going to explore other universes. So probably in the lambdas or serverless fast environments, people were using Node.js or Python just because the cool boot up of Java was very slow. But now with this approach, probably you can rethink again that approach, and probably you can move your Java applications to those environments. That can make you, let's say, use the same developers that you already have in your team. So no need to go and find Python and Node.js developers. Java developers can do the same. Also, it is very focused on being easy to code, so not reinventing the wheel, not adding more complexities, just simply use the same libraries that you were using, and do not use thousands of annotations for everything. So it's very easy to code. It's open source, so it's very important. Also, it has fast-paced releases, so you can find a release every 2 weeks. So it's minor, but they are constantly fixing bugs. They are constantly adding more extensions, adding new features, connecting to other libraries. So it's a lot of work being done on the Quarkus environment, and it has lots of extensions. So I mean, those libraries that you have been using in the past, now you can use them and compile them into native artifacts. As I said, there are several extensions. At this moment, around 150 extensions. So Kafka, Camel, Keycloak, well, you can find lots of them in the repository. So probably most of the libraries that you are using, if not all, are already available on the Quarkus environment. About the Quarkus evolution, well, it started on late 2018, and in 2 years and 2 months, let's say, they have moved from version 0.01 to version 1.11, but with lots of minor releases in the middle. So it's been quite a lot of work being done on this tool. So about this famous graph, considering the performance, well, if we take a look at the traditional cloud native stack, you can imagine which is this one. We are moving from around 140 megabytes to 73 megabytes. This is Quarkus on OpenJDK, so not even going to native. But if you go to native, then you see that moving to half of the memory, we have moved to 1/10 of the memory. So you can obviously increase the density, the cluster density. So when you were having one service, now you can have 10 services. So either you increment or the number of services, or even you reduce the number of machines or the number of resources that you are paying on public clouds. Also, in terms of speed, well, we are going from more than 4 seconds to less than a second on boot time in JDK. But if we go to native, we are on 16 milliseconds. So the difference is dramatic. So now you can start thinking that you can scale up and down pods, services in your cluster very easily and very performance demanding, let's say, but because you don't have to wait 4 seconds to have a pod ready to attend requests. So this also can improve the way you see how are you using your cluster. So about what it is, let's say that the magnitude of the project, well, they started with few developers and now they have more than 400 contributors, 7,000 of stars in GitHub. And well, in only 1 week, you can see how many pull requests have been merged, open, issues closed, and new issues appeared. So they are constantly working on this project. So it's safe to rely on this tool. So let's start with migration, the migration steps and the migration motivation.
Jonathan,
Yeah.
Before we go on, definitely had a question. He was asking if you can expand on GraalVM and what that is versus KVM. And this is, I think, probably 1 or 2 slides back.
Okay. So, well, the compilation using GraalVM. GraalVM is a tool that can, let's say, move from different languages into a native artifact. So, I mean, you don't need to have the JVM installed in that machine to run your code. It will run as a simple, let's say, command. Everything is packed in that artifact. KVM, probably, I don't know if Miguel can explain better, but it's not related.
Yeah, KVM is for virtual machines. It's a part of the Linux kernel that serves as an engine to run virtual machines on top of Linux. And well, it creates a process, isolates it, and provides all that is needed so it can run as a virtual machine. But then you have to run your own software on top of it. So nothing to do here. So, GraalVM is to substitute the Java virtual machine. And instead of compiling to Java virtual machine binaries, you compile directly to native operating system binaries. So you are specific to the operating system you're compiling to, but on the other hand, you don't need the Java virtual machine. Did I say it right, Jonathan?
Thank you. Perfect. Thank you very much for explaining. Hope the question has been answered. Okay. So let's move to the migration steps, and let's focus on this Ghosts and Goblins retro game. I put here the stage 2 because I never moved from stage 1, although I invested a lot of money. So I was happy to put this stage 2 here. So why we decided to migrate? Well, my experience with SpringBoot is that it's very easy to create applications, CDI, REST, you name it. Their focus is on making things easier. So it's very easy to start coding with it. But I found that the startup time of the application was super high, and the tests were taking a lot to start also. So I didn't like that. And it was also consuming a lot of memory. Yeah, you can think, well, a lot of memory, well, it depends. You are running in your machine or in bare metal, probably you are running one application. But let's think about having several applications in the cloud, and especially in public clouds where you pay a lot for different machines that you can configure, different memories. So yeah, it's a key thing to think when you are paying for the life of your applications. So, and also another thing was that there were too many things that were happening under the hood. So when you started your application, if you take a look to the log, there are several things that you didn't expect running, and they are running over there. So I heard about Quarkus, that it was, let's say, easy to develop applications. So it's nice. I don't need to learn a lot of things. It's fast. So it's perfect for me because then, well, it will take less to start the application, to deploy it, and to be running in a cluster. It's lightweight, so I don't have to request for big machines in Amazon or wherever I want to have my cluster. And also it is GraalVM compatible, so it can create native images that will use way less memory, and they will be way faster. And this can lead me to put my applications into serverless, function as a service, let's say, where I will pay only for the time that my application is providing value, not paying for the time that my application is waiting. So this means less money on public cloud. So about the application being migrated is the SpringBoot Pet Clinic REST. it's not a complex application, but it has most of the things that I was using in previous projects using Spring. So Spring data, web, security, documentation actuators, micrometers, CDI. Well, AOP aspect-oriented is not so common, but well, in this case, it was using for metrics, and also Spring Catch. In Quarkus, well, the correspondence is Hibernate Panache, JAX-RS, Quarkus Security, OpenAPI, Small Write Health, Microprofile Metrics, CDI specification. There's no aspect-oriented programming, and it also has Quarkus Catch. We didn't migrate the project came with 3 different layers of persistence: spring-data-jpa, JPA, and Spring JDBC querying. And we only focused on the JPA one, so the standard one. And we also didn't migrate the JMX stuff just because, it was not clear if it was supported or not by GraalVM, so we didn't explore that path for this, let's say, POC. So let's move to migration steps. Okay, so to replace CDI, so it's a matter of replacing the annotation from AutoWire to inject, if you are still using AutoWire. And also, the way you declare beans is using application scoped annotation. You will have auto injection on constructors, and also it is lazy by default, so it's perfect for boot time. And in Quarkus also, so the same as in Spring, it also has the feature that you can make the injection of a bean depending on the profile that you are running on, or a config property. So this is very convenient if you want to select different behaviors with the property. And also our difference is that on injection you cannot have private members. So injection needs to pass in public or package at least. Regarding JPA repositories, well, it's a matter of implementing Panache repository interface. In this case, I went to Panache repository base just for the difference on the identity class for the entities. In one place is integer, in another place is long. So in order to make it standard, I used integer. And that's it. So Quarkus will generate all the methods that you need to handle all your entities. So it's very, very easy. The only drawback is that we didn't have query DSL methods that are very famous or common in Spring. So those find by name, find by blah, blah, blah. We don't have that. But we can annotate our methods with the query that we are going to use. And that's it. I would prefer this way, but I understand that the Spring way, for easy queries is also convenient. Well, this is what we found. Regarding Spring REST, well, you need to move from Spring REST to JAX-RS, and more or less is a string replace for the annotations. Obviously, the imports, except for request mapping, where you can have 3 elements and you need to break them down into the annotations on JAX-RS. But that's it. Regarding the security, well, in the Spring way, we have the pre-authorized with this language expression to check for the roles that are allowed to enter that method. And in the Quarkus one, it is a list of roles. So, well, this is the difference, but in the end, it didn't create any issue with this migration. Also, in this case, the application had the security persisted in a database. So we needed to do more or less the same. Easy, just using the dependency extension Elytron security JDBC and providing these properties in the properties file to tweak the behavior of the security. And that's it. Regarding cross-origin, well, course is configured using the properties in the properties file and easy. The only drawback or the difference that we found was that this course in Spring, you can configure it at a controller level, but in Quarkus, I didn't find a way to do the same, so it is configured globally. Well, about metrics. So it's a matter of adding the small right metrics extension, annotate each method for your custom metrics, so counted, time, and annotations, and you will have your custom and your system annotations, metrics. Spring comes with micrometer notation that is different than the micro profile one. So to make this compatible, in order, well, to not break your Grafana dashboards, let's say, well, on Quarkus, we have a property, a toggle, that if we enable it, the notation used to those metrics will be the same as in micrometer. Or you can even use the micrometer extension, and then you will not have to modify anything, and you will have exactly the same as you have in Spring. And we don't have aspect-oriented programming to get the metrics. In this project, AOP was used in order to get the metrics for the access to the database. About the validation, well, it's a matter of moving from a Spring validation to Hibernate validator, and it's a matter of changing controller advice to exception mapper. But the code is very similar, and both are relying on the standard valid annotation and the constraints in your POJOs, so it's about Swagger, simply add the extension OpenAPI, and you will have your Swagger generated for all the endpoints. And if you add this annotation, OpenAPI definition, then you can tweak the global information. The only drawback that I found is that in Spring, you can define which are the paths to be scanned for controllers in order to put the information in Swagger. So you want to hide some endpoints. But with Quarkus, I simply didn't find a way to do it. Regarding the metrics for the database access, as I said before, in the Spring one, they are using this AOP. So with a round expression, you can cover all the methods from the repository and inherited classes or interfaces. So it was very easy to collect information about the access. As we don't have that, the other way could be just using annotations on all the methods that you are modifying in your repositories. Or even simpler, simply put this property in the properties file, and you will have the Hibernate metrics enabled. So all the data, all the V access will be outputted in the metrics. Regarding the local caching, we'll simply add the cache extension and use the cache result annotation. And you can configure the behavior on the properties file with these two properties that you can see. So we've come to the test part. So regarding test, for mock MVC, we need to move to rest assured, and we need to modify completely the code. This is the drawback, but there's nothing to do here. I prefer the rest assured notation, but this is a matter of taste. The only drawback that I found is that there was no way to simulate roles without creating a user for each role to test. In a Spring, you can inject a role. In Quarkus, I didn't find a way to inject roles. So I needed to inject users. Regarding test resources, so in testing, you are going to start an in-memory database, in this case H2. So for doing that, it's a matter of adding the Quarkus test resource annotation and specify which is the resource that you want to start. And then with the properties configuration, you will connect to the database and your test will be connected. Regarding injecting mocks, well, if you use Quarkus JUnit 5 Mockito extension, then you add this inject mock annotation and you will have the bean injected in your test. So at this point, I will tell you, forget everything that I said. This was the way to move away from the Spring world into the open standard libraries world. But if you want to stay on the Spring world, or because you have lots of applications that you want to migrate, there's another way. Just simply use the Spring Quarkus extensions. So for Spring Web, use the Spring Web extension and don't touch your endpoints, your controllers, your resources. Everything will be compiled by Quarkus on build time, and you will have it on runtime, even either on JVM or in native mode. So don't touch your code. With dependency injection, exactly the same. Don't touch your beans, and those beans will be compiled. The only thing that you need to check is that if you are using a corner case or an advanced feature that the extension doesn't cover, well, you need to find a workaround. But if you are stick to the most common use cases, probably just using the extension is enough for you. The same with the spring-data-jpa, and even in this case, we have even query DSL methods. With security, exactly the same, and we even have these expressions allowed in the security for the roles. So, after doing the migration, what was the benefit? So, on build time, there's no benefit at all. In fact, we are going worse with Quarkus or Quarkus plus GraalVM. But to be honest, I'm not really concerned by build time because it is Mr. Jenkins, Mr. Travis, or Mrs. GitHub who is doing the build. So I'm more concerned about boot. So what will be the start time? So this application with the SpringBoot takes around 7 seconds. If we go to Quarkus, we are reducing to 2.5 seconds, more or less. But if we go to native, going from Quarkus JVM to Quarkus native is only a matter of adding -p native in the command line. If you are using the standard things covered by Quarkus, that's the only modification that you need to do. So for doing that, we are moving from around 7 seconds to less than half a second. And regarding memory, at the starting point, the SpringBoot application takes more than 600 megabytes. We reduced to less than half going to Quarkus JVM, but we are going to 21 megabytes on the native compilation. So in terms of memory, where I had one application, now I can have more than 30 applications. Where I had one application, now let's do the transformation. We can have 15 applications, so we can increase dramatically the cluster density.
So, Jonathan, there are a couple of questions here. One that I missed by Daniel Gourde says about aspect-oriented programming. So, my understanding is that Quarkus does not support aspect-oriented programming. Are you up to date on that?
Well, yes, as far as I know, Quarkus doesn't support aspect-oriented just because aspect-oriented is based on reflection.
Okay.
So in runtime, Quarkus produces artifacts that tend to use reflection the less it can. So as far as I am aware, and the last time that I checked, aspect-oriented is not covered by Quarkus just because the use of reflection.
Okay, there's another question by Srikanth Valuru that says, how is the performance between migrated Spring application and versus Spring extensions?
Okay, that's a good question, and I don't know. Simply, I don't know. I need to do this kind of migration, so to add another column in this matrix, comparing, yes, using this Quarkus, because this Quarkus hotspot 1.8 is using the standard libraries, not the Spring extensions. So yeah, I should do exactly the same migration, but using the extensions, so the Spring extensions. I need to do that. Thank you, but it's a good question.
Yeah. Also, last one that I see here. While I agree about build time versus runtime, Quarkus native builds are very heavyweight in terms of resource utilization. This is by Gerald Noon. Do we have any plans to optimize build times in Quarkus? This should be for the Quarkus team, but I mean, if you know anything.
Well, I assume, they are working constantly on also improving the way they are building. But yes, it will always be way slower compared to the SpringBoot one, just because this is easy. Quarkus is faster on runtime because it's slower on build time.
Yeah,
you can switch that, and then you will have the same for Spring. So Quarkus, it will always be slower than SpringBoot in build time, but yeah, for sure they will constantly be improving the Quarkus core in order to reduce this build time. But yeah, probably I don't think it's a very a point that has the most priority. But I totally understand the concern.
Can I make a comment here?
One more question. Yes.
Sorry, say again.
Yeah, I was wondering if I can make a quick comment on that build issue or build time. So the idea of Quarkus is also that the developer can continuously build application or develop without restarting the application, right?
Well, Quarkus, what it has also, I haven't mentioned here because the purpose of the migration was another thing, but Quarkus also has this dev mode that it has this hot reload. So you are on your machine, you are constantly working, and Quarkus will reflect all the changes. So it will compile what it is needed, and you will always have the new code compiled. So on local, if you're using dev mode, you will not suffer from constantly hard times on building.
Exactly. So that was my point. That means the developer doesn't need that to build that often, right? So,
No.
Yeah. And one last question from Mike Weisbach. I hope I pronounced it well. How many person days did the migration take? So I think you did it yourself. How long did it take you?
Well, I did it myself, and about measuring time, you can always have this duration or the effort. So if we're talking about duration, it's not important because I'm very slow at working. So I mean, it was not like a full-time process of migrating. But I would say that it's not hard to do this migration. with this project. Yeah, this is a Spring Pet Clinic. So it's not hard because most of the things are simply a string replace. Nothing more complicated except for the test part. I needed to move to rest assured. That was, well, the most of the changes. But for the rest was more trying to invest which is the way to do it, try to use the standard library that I was not used to use. So for me it was a learning path, a discovery path, more than full-time job migrating. But it's not hard to migrate, no.
Okay, so now I'll ask for the ones that joined with the presenter link, please. You kindly do it. I would appreciate it. And then no more questions. You could move ahead.
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, I'm finishing. I need to give you time to do your part. So it's about references only that I would like to highlight. Well, here you have the links for the original repository and the migrated one. I tried to do as many commits as I could in order for you to have like a full list of changes. Also, the Quarkus.io is the web page where you can start and have all the information about the guides for using the different extensions. The Quarkus.io Twitter handle, the developer Red Hat link where you will find several tutorials and documentation, the Quarkus mailing list where you can just simply post questions. About the interactive tutorials that you will find, well, it's everything run on the cloud, so you don't mess with your laptop or your machine. And you will have one IDE and even OpenShift console to check your application with all the steps, easy to follow, and with different topics. It's very, very convenient also. The cheat sheet that I totally recommend you to follow because it's a summary of all the changes in every release of Quarkus, published by my colleague Alex Soto. And here is the main website, code.quarkus.io. Here you can define which are the libraries that you want to use, and it will produce a zip file with the skeleton for you to start coding. And now it's time for Miguel and the demo. I will stop sharing. Is that okay?
Yeah, I can take over.
Yep.
So let me
all yours.
Let me try sharing my screen. My turn. So can you already see this? I mean, I was copying this URL for all the people in the audience so they could go to the code. So
yeah, I see that.
Yeah.
See the slides.
So we have this migration toolkit for applications. As you know, I know that we are talking to developers. The upstream for this is windup. So you have this URL, github.com/windup. So you have all the code of these two available here. I'm going to paste it in the chat window for you. So these two, I mean, we build it and you have it available in red.ht/mta. So if you want to download it, you can go here to this page, click on download, and get the very latest version that was published this last Friday. So let me share the link here also for the ones that want to start downloading. So this is MTA, the Migration Toolkit for Applications. It's just a clean build of windup that I shared the repositories there. And it's a tool to help with these migrations. So what are we doing? Well, we create rules to find the issues that Jonathan has described. You know, we have that you have to replace this library with this other library. You could do it easily. So this is what MTA does, but it has like a lot of migration paths. So if you're going to migrate from Windows to Linux, your Java application, this is Java focused. You want to migrate to Linux from Windows, for example, you will search for hard-coded paths that are Windows-like. Or if you're going to containerize, there are rules based on the 12-factor app definition. If you're going to move from Oracle JDK to OpenJDK, you will find the proprietary classes that you may be using from Oracle JDK, and I'll let you know. And if you want to move to Wildfly or to JBoss EAP, of course, you can use it too. We have added in this last version, 5.1, rules for migrating to Quarkus, or for using Spring Boot on Red Hat runtimes on OpenShift. So we added some interface to the rules that is new, just in case you're looking at it or you want to go through it. It's pretty simple to check the rules. It's pretty simple to write your own rules. If you write your own rules, please ping us, contact us through the email group that Jonathan Rothinos has shared initially, and we'll happily listen to you there, get those rules, make them part of Windup and MTA. And we have, I say, like quite some rules to migrate from Spring Boot to Quarkus. The 5.1.0 included 24 rules already, and we added in 5.1 106 new rules to detect Quarkus components, and we're going to see them. So you have there the URLs to access MTA to download it or Windup to see the code. And of course, if you want to suggest a new rule or new modification, we're more than willing to listen. So, this is loading. This is an example. I'm going to show it right now live. And this is the IDE integration because MTA has we provide plugin for Eclipse, Visual Studio Code, and Eclipse Che. So you could integrate these rules and these results into your own IDE. We've created an operator. If you want to deploy it on OpenShift, we are working so the operator is as agnostic as possible and could run on any Kubernetes. Right now, it runs only on OpenShift 4.5 or later. So you can run the migration toolkit for applications easily on OpenShift and by using the operator. And we want to work so it runs on any Kubernetes. And these are real use cases. I really like the Vodafone one. They reduce the code in 30% when migrating to Quarkus. So it's 30% less code to maintain, 30% less chances to include bug or security issue. So you save a lot of time. And normally people try it because of the speed, but they stay with it because of the productivity. So I'm really suggesting you to try Quarkus and to migrate. So this is the last of the slides. Okay, this is our contact info, just in case you want to take a look at it. And I'm going to just go to my command line. So this is a folder that is just what you download from the web page. So if you go to this migration toolkit for applications, red.ht/mta, and you click on download, and you go here to the web console. I'm going to show the web console. This is a CLI too. You download this web console and you unzip it. This is what you get, okay? This. And then in here you have the runmta.sh to run it on Linux or macOS. I'm running Fedora, so I'm going to use this one. But if you're running Windows, you could also use runmta.bat. You only need a JDK version 8 or 11. So OpenJDK or Oracle JDKs are the ones that we test with. So you have your OpenJDK like I do, you're good to go. So I click on run._mta.sh, I run it and it starts. And then this starts and it's going to listen on port 8080. So this is where I could start going to check on the application running. So when you run this version of it, and you go to localhost 8080, it won't even ask for a password. It will just log you in directly. But if you deploy it, you could take this out and make it so you have users being able to log in and control it if you're going to use it publicly. So what I'm about to do here is that I could create a project. I could call it Konveyor demo. And then I'm going to hide this. Yes, next. And then I would just pick some applications, that I have here. I could go to app migration here. I have the sample applications, sample binaries. These are typical applications that I can use. Okay, I go next. And then I click on the transformation paths that I want to use, next, and then it will discover the packages, and I can make the analysis run for this. But let's say that I want to analyze what Jonathan is saying. We have the REST clinic. Let's clone the Spring Pet Clinic REST here. Okay. So I'm cloning the repository. I'm entering the repository, and then I have the source code here, and I'm going to compile it. Okay. So it's now compiling the application, and I'm going to do exactly what I did with these binaries, but with Pet Clinic. Okay. So I could add my own custom rules. Let's say that you're using a framework in your own environment, and you're very used to it, and you know that this kind of case is better replaced with this kind of library that we all use. So you could create your own rules and point an URL to your own wiki saying, okay, this is what you have to do when you find this. So you're saving time and you're standardizing when doing a migration. We could add custom labels. We could check the options, include tags, exclude tags. There are like plenty of options. I suggest you to go through them, and then you review this and you just save it and run. Okay, so now MTA, Migration Toolkit for Application, is going to analyze these 5 applications. Let's see. You'll see the Pet Clinic REST is done. It's been built. So I have this target folder, and I can see the fat jar here that has got built. And I'm going to analyze this one too. Okay, why not? Go to project, create a new project, and I go for Konveyor demo 2, and I go Spring Pet Clinic, and then next, and then I just go to that folder, temporary Clinic REST, and I choose the binary. I could analyze the source, but the problem with analyzing the source is that it's not going to analyze all the dependencies. So this comes from Spring. So now I'm going to just run the containerization rules, just in case the Linux ones, the JDK ones, and the Quarkus ones. Okay. So this is rules to support the SpringBoot to Quarkus migration, and the other ones, the containerization and so on. Next, then it checks for everything that is found that is like a common package is left on the left side. So it's not included, and everything that is not that common is moved to the right side. But I could choose like any other of these packages and click here, select it, click here, and it will get added. You see? In this case, I'm going to remove it. I'm going to leave it as it is. I go next, and then no custom rules, no custom labels, next, and just save and run. So what is the outcome of this? Okay, can go to projects, and I have this migration project 1. It's the same thing that is going to be analyzed right now. These are the applications. So I could see that this application is completely ready to move to JBoss EAP, this Ticket Monster application. I click here and I see that all is supported. The green ones are supported. The runtime label legend. These ones are supported by JBoss EAP. The gray ones are like neutral, and these other ones may have some issues. And then I could check the issues and review which ones does this have. This is like a WebLogic application. It has like a lot of WebLogic issues here, and I could review them. So it works also for like traditional applications. We move to JBoss EAP, but let's check on what we're interested in, which is the SpringBoot to Quarkus, right? I go to projects. Let's see if this one has finished. It's finished. It's the one that I just did right now. And I go to the results, and I can see the Spring Pet Clinic REST, fat jar, and these are all the incidents that we have found, you see? And when I go to issues, I could just check them. I see all this replace. You see, this is what Jonathan said about you just have to replace one extension with another, trivial line change. So I could go and check this and see what I need to replace, and I could have a link to the Spring Web Guide for Quarkus. So I could get all the details on how to replace this, and I could even go here, and it's going to tell me where it is, you see? And then I could go and check all the issues, replace all the issues, and it's going to help me migrate from SpringBoot to Quarkus. There are a lot of more application details an evaluation of the story points, the technologies that are used, the dependencies graph, all the list of the dependencies, and so on and so on. So this is what MTA could help you do. Just migrate from SpringBoot to Quarkus, and it's what we expect that you are going to be using to analyze the binaries of your applications to be able to run this migration. So with this, I'm done. Let's see the questions. Do you have any other questions around here that we may answer? I'm checking.
I didn't see any question that hasn't been answered. So
okay. So
good demo. Thank you,
Mr.
Yeah,
Vecino?
so I think that's it. I don't see any other questions. We tackled all the ones that were asked. So yeah, I think that's it. Everyone, thank you for attending and for working. Oh, maybe one just popped up.
Yeah.
So Miguel, does MTA emphasize if whole application can be moved to native Quarkus? He was saying that would be a nice feature besides just analysis of going to Quarkus.
Our colleague Marco Rizzi just built rule generator rule that he used specifically for this, to be able to find all the components that could be replaced. The thing about this is that, and we tried this today, Jonathan and me, we just run it against the source code, and the thing is that it's not going to analyze the dependencies. So you have to build it and analyze the binaries to be able to analyze the dependencies, okay? So this is one of the glitches that we have so far, which is natural, okay? But yeah, we have like these 106 rules that were added to the distribution last Friday. I mean, they were built long ago, and they were added this Friday. They are intended for that specifically, to find those components and be able to say, hey, we found this, please check it and convert it. But I mean, as Jonathan said, I mean, you may not need to convert everything, or you may not want. So we are providing options here.
I would say for Vladimir that every application can be moved to anything. I think it's only a matter of time. So now MTA is providing you the total story points, so because it is giving like an estimation for each change, and you in the first page, you will see this total story points. So it's up to you to decide if you want to invest that time or not. So in the end, if there is no extension provided for a Spring library or any other library not covered by Quarkus, you in the end could do like a workaround using another approach and rewriting completely that part. So it's up to you to decide if you want to invest that time or not. And that's what MTA will give you at the first page. This is the total story points or effort that you are going to invest in the migration. That's a good starting point.
Yeah. Philip Katanari is our engineering manager. He's replying to questions here. You see the dependencies declared in the POM file are discovered when analyzing source mode. Yeah, yes, they are. But I mean, the best thing is try it yourself. So get the code. The GitHub repositories are there. The binaries are available. You only need to go to red.st/mta and then go to downloads and download it. I mean, there's no anything to be charged or anything. So go and try it.
All right, guys. I think that's it for the questions. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much. If you haven't, I'll send out a link to the recording and the slides later on today. And if you have any questions that pop up then, feel free to ask them, and I'll shoot them over to the presenters. All right, everyone. Thank you for your time, and until next time. Bye.